Hey gang, Ronan here. As you can see in this game, I am playing the newly released super ship, the Pan-Asian destroyer Kunming. What can I tell you about the Kunming? Well, I played a few games in it. Not a lot of games, but a few. I feel like by the third or fourth game, I kind of had the hang of it. This was maybe the second or third game, and then I have one more replay that was maybe the next game or two games after this one. It is fun. Plainly, as you can see along the bottom of the screen there, I opt for radar on this ship, and it is pretty nice for bullying other destroyers. But we'll get to that. Let me just give you the breakdown, the basic information on the ship. It's got 8 guns, 2 barrels on each of 4 turrets, with a pretty fast rotation speed on the guns, 180-degree turn time of 7.2 seconds. So in that regard, it's a little bit like the U.S. high-tier destroyers. Reload time base is 5 seconds. Firing range base 13.39 kilometers. Maximum dispersion at that range 115 meters. So pretty accurate guns. They are a little bit floaty, as you'll see. The HE does a maximum damage of 1800 with a 5% chance for a fire on any particular hit, with an initial HE shell velocity of 792 meters per second, which it's about what you'd expect if you're firing at the U.S. or Pan-Asian high-tier destroyers. This is going to be more of the same of that. If you can make good use of that, then you can probably make good use of these guns. The torpedoes. Well, let's get to the torpedoes. You've got 15 torpedoes. You got 3 racks, 5 torpedoes in each rack, with a base reload of 139 seconds, and the maximum damage on these torpedoes is 18,800 with a base speed of 69 knots and a 13.5 kilometer range. Now, these torpedoes at 69 knots, they're not super fast, and you can of course speed that up by 5%. But these are deep water torpedoes, so by the time someone sees them, it's too late, and they are fun. If you have never used deep water torpedoes, you're not going to be able to hit anything but bigger ships with this. Destroyers, subs, they're just going to pass right by them, no problem at all. AA, well, it's about like what you'd expect on any destroyer, really. It's not going to be a whole heck of a lot. Maneuverability, max speed 38 knots, base speed with a 700-meter turning circle radius and a rudder shift time base of 4.4 seconds. Surface detectability range, and here's where you can see where the radar comes in very handy. That Gdansk, he's smoked up. He can't see me, and I can just put shells on him. Now, granted, he backed away, and I wasn't able to do a whole heck of a lot, but it does give you some idea of what you can do, and as long as I've got him in my radar range, everybody knows where he is, and he's potentially taking shots from other people. Now, I know he's got to move. He's got to get out of there. He can't just sit there. Now, here comes the counter radar, and now I can get behind a rock myself. Surface detectability base is 7.81 kilometers. Air detectability range base is 3.9. And I'm just going to duck in here and avoid any torpedoes and or gunshots for a second. Now, let me give you the pros and cons according to the World of Warships and our Shimakaze, knowing right where Gdansk was, put a whole bunch of torpedoes in there and finished him off quite handily. All right, so first we'll go over the pros. High alpha strike. These torpedoes, if you hit something with these torpedoes, they do hit really hard. Long range main battery, well, it's okay. Deep water torpedoes with low detection, as I mentioned. Now you can take smoke on this thing, but to me this is much more fun to use the radar. But the smoke generator does have an increased action time, reduced cooldown, and extra charges. But the surveillance radar, to me, that's where the fun of this ship is, and so that's what you're going to see here, and in the other game that I recorded that I'm going to post up here for you. It also, as you can see down there on the bottom, with the U key, has a torpedo reload booster, which means you can put a lot of torpedoes in the water. You can cover a huge area with torpedoes. And I'm just going to sit right here until I'm able to help secure this cap. All right, so that's the pros. Now the cons. It's a big target. It's a pretty good sized ship. And if you get yourself caught out, you can get battered. It's got floaty shells. I mean, that's literally what it says, but that is what I said earlier. They are pretty floaty with a low fire chance. I mentioned 5%. Not a very fast reload. They're calling it a slow reload. I guess it kind of is compared to some others, but it's not terrible. But you don't want to get into a gunfight with, things that have more guns or the same number of guns and a better reload. The torps can't hit destroyers or subs, which I already mentioned. Poor agility. It is not a very maneuverable destroyer because it's so big. Now you can see I'm just flooding this area with torpedoes. And I did not use the torpedo reload booster there, and in retrospect, maybe I should have. Because with that drop, I think if I remember correctly, that drop ended up working pretty well. The high concealment on this thing in combination with the not so good agility, especially if you're using radar, can get you into trouble. You can find yourself nose in a lot of situations that can turn bad really quickly. So I advise caution, as I often do with destroyers, but maybe more so when you're playing a destroyer that, in lieu of smoke, has radar. You don't want to get yourself in a situation where you're going to be crossfired, or where something that seriously outguns you or that has more HP than you can just sit and pummel you indefinitely. So that is the pros and cons for you. And you can see all those torpedoes out there, and they just start landing. And it really does a great job of area denial. And all I'm doing here is just providing spotting. Now we've got Gearing up there at the north end of the Charlie Cap, and he's doing the same thing. But while this was going on, I was kind of more focused on just trying to keep these guys detected for my team. And I think maybe I'll get a few shots off here on Neptune while I can. And there's that kind of longish reload. Okay, so I landed a few torpedoes. We're 7 minutes in. I'm sitting at 83,000 damage. Did I set any records in this thing? No, I didn't. But I like the Pan Asian destroyer line. I've played it a fair bit. I like the Tier 10 and some others. I actually have the Premium Anshan, and I like that. And that's a pretty low tier, but it's fun to play. It doesn't have deep water torpedoes, but it's got Russian guns, which is nice. I found this ship really, really fun to play. Despite the cons, which we've gone over, it's an exciting ship to play because the alpha threat that this ship represents really is significant. Hey, look at that. I'm playing a destroyer and I shot down an aircraft. That doesn't happen too often. This poor Neptune. Well, poor any Neptune. I have seen Neptune played to great effect, but not very often. You can see the red Neptune there. He's about to get blapped. And at this point, I'm looking at this game. I'm saying the bad guys are down 5 ships. We're only down 2. And the majority of our ships still have a decent amount of HP, whereas the bad guys, Neptune, well, he's gone now. Yoshino, St. Vincent, Mechlin, all of them are really banged up. So this one's really kind of all over but the shouting, so I've gone ahead and pushed right out here. I know I'm air spotted, but I'm really just wanting to get some more torpedoes on target. See if I can avoid getting derailed here by the Gearing, who may or may not have been paying any attention. So you can see the Gearing's torpedoes are already out there. Satsuma's backing up. I didn't throw torpedoes out at Mecklenburg because he's running away. I got broadside target here. And Satsuma, is he going to just continue to reverse? Maybe. If he does, he's in big trouble. And I used the torpedo reload booster, which has a pretty long cooldown. Once you use it, it's going to be a while until you can use it again. But I can kind of understand that because you're able to put 30 of these torpedoes in the water. And I didn't really even need to put those out there. That first set is going to take care of him.
Our victory is in sight.
Where where I thought it was going to take care of him, it actually didn't. How about that? So I'm at 126,000 damage now. Satsuma, well, I guess that second set of torpedoes is going to come in handy after all. So I've gone over the basics of the ship, the pros and cons, the armament, and yeah, definitely needed that second set. So I have to eat my words. And now all I'm going to do is just try and keep Yoshino spotted for the Elbing that's sitting behind me, and watch for torpedoes from Yoshino. And that's pretty much the game. I mean, the bad guys are down to 3 ships. They've got the St. Vincent, the Yoshino that's, yeah, he's in big trouble. We've got a Yushikov here. And while he doesn't have much in the way of HP, neither does that Yoshino. I'm just trying to stay ahead of the Yoshino so that I can stay out of sight. But then I realize, you know, we got 930 some odd points. This game's about to be over. And Capitão Sardina, in his Thunderer, finishes off Swamp Donkey in the Yoshino B. And that, my friends, is the game. So, if you're keeping track, that's 16 torpedo hits, 6 floods, banged up some red ships pretty good. 140, well, we'll call it 149,000 damage. Thanks a lot for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time.